just what is pure and authentic faith? What is it, Teo? Can you tell us?
Me? Sure, of course I can tell you. So please, everybody, check this blog from timesofisrael.com. Oh, that gives me lots of trust. And it's going to be extremely funny when you try to see the excuses that apologists gives, and I can only laugh at them. Let me quote from the article. When the Bible says we were formed in God's image, it essentially talks about our God-given ability to think independently of our bodies. Guys, ability to think. Keep this in mind. Because whenever people say this, they kind of ignore the fact that, in the first place, the Bible is a combination of several stories in which humans were made in the physical image of the Creator, minus the understanding of good and evil. Read your Bible. That's why when humans ate the fruit of knowledge, they became like the Elohim, which are the council of gods that have created them. And thus, they got expelled from the Garden of Eden. That's why when they eat the fruit, God, quotation mark, says, oh, now they are like us, because now they understand the difference between good and evil. Therefore, whenever they say, oh yeah, the image of God is that they can think, they are lying, because they didn't have the ability to think, or at least to understand good and evil, which means they were not able to understand mistakes, and they were not able to understand morality, amongst many other things. And try to understand that became the original sin. Why do I mention this? Because they don't even realize that they are contradicting themselves when they say, I'm quoting again from this article, and yet, one of the fundamental principles of becoming godly and serving God is accepting His authority in complete and pure faith. Our connection with God is reflected in the strength of our faith. So, literally, they are saying that faith is not thinking, just asking them to obey and avoid thinking. The total opposite to what they said in the beginning with the, oh yeah, God image, God-given ability to think independently. Don't they see the contradiction? What do you think, Aaron? For real, am I crazy here?
Oh my
Isn't
gosh.
it silly?
I I think faith is the most dangerous thing a person can have, because there is nothing that you cannot end up doing because of your faith. Because there's no, because of when you have faith in something, there's no evidence to support you. And so if you think that God is giving you a message to go and do something, if you have faith, you're going to go and do it, no matter how atrocious or horrible it is. Now, fortunately, most people that believe, they do good things out of their faith, but it's easier to be destructive than it is to be good, and the destruction does more harm. And so when somebody decides to be destructive because God says so, it's really damaging. Kelly?
Yeah, it takes a lot less time to tear something down than it does to build it up, doesn't it?
That's what I meant to say.
Definitely
Yes.
for sure, right? I'll definitely agree with you on that one. This whole article started out on a bad note to me, and the first thing that I noticed was the same exact quote that Teo just mentioned, and what got to me was, how do we possibly think independently of our bodies? I mean, how do you do that? Isn't every thought you have come from your brain, which is part of your body, right? Is there any kind of thought of your own that is independent from your body? And then from that point on, it just got nuttier, right? The whole article just got nuttier and nuttier and nuttier to me. He, at one point, he used the train for an analogy, and all I can think of was, man, this guy is on the crazy train, right? And then later, as I got near the end, I realized, no, that this article was just a train wreck in and of itself, right? Oh God, I couldn't believe how horribly bad the logic was in this, and to think that, and he keeps reiterating it throughout the whole thing, that faith is so much better than thinking things out, and I just appalled by it. Aaron, you got more you want to add?
Yeah, I've got that when he says, "Oh, I lost my train of thought." Teo, go ahead.
Sorry.
See, that's how bad it was. It just
I know,
knocks
I'm
the
just
thoughts right out of your head.
Speechless.
I wanted to say, you say logic. I'm not sure that that word means what they think. Okay. I was going to mention many things. Oh yeah, they want to believe that that the mind and the brain are not the same thing because obviously not thinking is easier, and if they can say that it's magic, oh, there is the need of a god. But okay, they say so many things as you mentioned. One that I want to quote, quotation mark. To be honest, a thinking person will be fine relying on faith, because even the most rational person can reach this conclusion through reasoning. So, as you see, they are saying that by faith you can be rational, when being rational is what have brought most of us out of religion and made us lose faith. I don't know what to say us, talking about Kelly and Aaron, but I'm talking about myself, and I've met several Christians ex-Christians who have gone through this wild ride of understanding logic, understanding critical thinking, realizing how fake their faith was. Aaron, I don't know if you want to take your train back before I continue, because I have many things to say.
No, I'm going to tack on what you said there. That I could not understand what his argument for this was. His claim is that any rational person is going to come to faith, is going to have faith, but he didn't make any arguments about to support that claim. He just kept making claim after claim about things that, like the train. I just have no words. I just don't even know what the logic behind this article was. Essentially, I think his thought process was, I don't understand this, so it must be God. When we don't understand something, it must be God. And I don't agree with that logic at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yep, that's the
there was a lot of
quotation mark
godly
logic.
gaps in there, right? I'm sorry, Teo. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the same of you. Quotation
And
marks. It's God because I don't know it. Yeah, and okay,
it's either God or a bunch of tiny horses, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was the idea of the horse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the fallacy is we have to have an explanation for something, right? If we don't know, we have to have an explanation. You have to have an explanation. Yeah. The answer can't ever be I don't know. So we've been talking about this analogy that it makes about the train. So the analogy was that a train comes through a farmland for the first time. So this is the first time these people have ever seen a train. So they have no idea how it works or anything like that. And so somebody comes up to them and asks, let's go inspect this train and figure out how it works. And they're saying to themselves, well, it must be horses, right? Because that's the only way you can get around that fast is with horses. So they must have horses somewhere in this train. And they look and they look and they look. And they obviously they can't find any horses. And so their conclusion is, well, we can't find any horses, so it must be a really mighty miniature horse that's running this train. No, you don't have any evidence to support that. The only conclusion is, I don't know how the train runs. Let's continue to investigate. Teo?
But the big problem here is that they don't realize this. They destroy their own argument because they say, oh, okay, it's tiny horses and we must have faith that it's tiny horses, in the same way that they must have faith in God. And they don't realize, hey, if you go and educate those people in what an engine is and how it can make the train move, they will stop believing in tiny horses, in the same way that people, if you educate them properly, they will stop believing in silly stuff like gods. And I have to say, whoever who wrote this stupid thing, this article, they don't think much about anything. They said, quotation mark, a 50-year-old professor can explain his 50 years of knowledge and experience to a 2-year-old, even though it's all relative. And I love this word relative because it makes me think of certain guy. Maybe you have heard of Einstein. A lot of people give him some quotes. I have no idea if what I'm going to quote it for is for him or not, but I found it on the internet, so it must be true. And my favorite quote from Einstein is, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. This is to say, a guy with 50 years old a 50-year-old professor whose job is to explain things, yes, they can explain things to little children because they can make it simple because they totally understand it. The fact that you, guy writing this stupid article, don't understand something doesn't mean other people don't understand things either. It only means that you don't understand something. So yes, a 50-year-old professor should be able to teach some of his topics. Obviously, he's not going to spend his whole life or hours and hours teaching, boring to death to a little child. But he can explain some of the stuff that he knows in a very simple way. So the whole train of thought of this article is derailed. It's awful. Yeah, Kelly, I see you
I see what you
about to
did
jump.
there. Yeah, I don't know if he even realized he was destroying his own argument with that train analogy. Oh, you just got to have faith, because faith is really good. It can even lead you to tiny horses. It just seemed like a stupid argument to make, or a stupid analogy. So I'm not even sure the guy understood that he was like really tearing up his own argument by using that, right? And you mentioned not being able to say something to a 2-year-old, and if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, that is so true. And that's one of the things that one of my good geologist friends, he's retired, he was getting bored, and he didn't know what to do with himself, so he started teaching at the local elementary school, actually at the Catholic school. He's not a Catholic, but he did anyway because they had an opening. And he was teaching these little kids, and he actually brought them into our store because we have a huge selection of rocks that he could use to demonstrate and teach them about. And I was able to teach the kids stuff. And you can talk to these kids in a way that they understand, and you can see the light start to shine in their eyes when they're getting it, right? And it's one of the coolest things that I've ever done, is teaching science to children, teaching these concepts that even some adults don't get, and breaking it down and showing kids how it works. And they are a lot smarter than you can give them, that most people give them credit for. So that really bothered me that he was like, and I mean, to use a 2-year-old was a little bit of kind of a stretch. I think he was like bringing it to the absurd there. But you can talk to a 5-year-old, somebody that has already learned to reason and understand stuff. You can break anything down for them so that they can understand it.
Yeah, my thought was, who explains their life's work to 2-year-olds? Who does that?
Yeah, right. I didn't even think of that. Yes.
And if he's making, I think he's making an analogy that God is the 50-year-old and we're the 2-year-olds, right? Compared to God knows everything, and we're just little 2-year-olds that know nothing, right? Well,
Gosh, that's even more stupid.
It sounds like God isn't quite as omnipotent as he says he is, because if God can't explain things to me as a 2-year-old, then he's not omnipotent, is he?
Yeah,
that's right.
And
that's right.
Also, it's awesome because if that's what they were trying to say, now the next sentence that I have in here makes more sense. That says, in the same way, we must appreciate and accept that if God can create this vast and precise universe with 7 billion people, it is impossible to ever understand his wisdom and mind. And this is literally the meme, we cannot understand God, so let me tell you exactly what God thinks, and what God wants. And also, only 7 billion people, so I guess there is no life outside humans, and all animals they don't exist, apparently.
I like the way he invoked Pharaoh too, because who was the biggest, baddest bad guy before Hitler? It was Pharaoh, right? I mean, it was. So I thought it was funny that he would invoke the oldest, baddest man ever to highlight that you have to be evil if you don't believe in God. You don't believe in God? Well, you're as bad as Pharaoh. Oh my, you horrible person, you, right? And it just seemed like this underhanded insult that anybody who at an atheist, to me, right? And then right after that, he goes into disparaging education. And I think we can all figure out why, right? Because higher education is, in fact, the enemy of faith, right? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that old Steve Martin joke. Can you imagine dying and actually going to a cliche heaven? You'd be standing there in front of the pearly gates and you're thinking, oh, wow, man, in college, they told me this was all bullshit. And I think that's the only part of this piece that actually really, really pissed me off, right? Essentially, he's saying you don't need to be educated. You don't need to learn stuff. Faith is better. All you got to do is have faith that you're right. How do you not get pissed when you hear stuff like that, right? It really bothered me.
What you're saying is perfectly reflected when, as a huge thing, the writer goes and quotes, who was it? Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotkens, something like that, who said, I do not want to have faith in a God that is understood. Literally is saying that he wants to be irrational. He doesn't want to understand. He just wants to have faith. And they even say faith as an inference of intellect is not faith at all. It is intellect entirely limited by one's thinking. Almost as if knowledge, that saying that knowledge is limited, was something bad when you admit the flaws of that. But no, faith is infinite, so you can believe whatever you want. Ay, that's so awful. Aaron, I know that you can continue this this line of thought.
Yeah, so I imagine this article came out because I don't know how old this gentleman is or if he has kids, but I imagine that either his child or his grandchild came up to him and was asking him all sorts of questions about his faith, about why this, why that, how come this, how come that, and I could just see him. Well, because we have to have faith. And he got all angry and upset about these plain and simple questions that his 2-year-old's asking, and went out and wrote this article as a rebuttal to all the tough questions that people ask of religions. And he does not succeed in making this argument. It seems like his whole point is stop asking questions and just accept things on faith. Why do you have to know how everything works?
Yeah,
That has been the church for since ever.
yeah. There was one other thing, and it got me angry too. Just right near the end, it was the idea that if your life isn't good, it's okay. It's actually good anyway. All you need is that faith again, right? You just got to have faith in God, and everything's fine. That's all. And it just, what a load of crap. What a load of crap to somebody who's suffering from depression. Oh, all you got to do is have faith in God, and you'll be fine. It's just, it's infuriating to me. It's infuriating that somebody who supposedly is educated could spout this kind of crap to other people.
Yeah, it reinforces the notion that if you're suffering, it's because you're not obedient enough, or you're not faithful enough, or you're not something enough, and so you just have to work harder at. And that's just not the reality, right? That's not how our bodies work and our brains work. And
yeah.
Dale?
Yeah, I was going to say, what can you expect from a religion that says that being sick is either a demon inside your body or God punishing you because you did not what God wanted? So, yeah.
Well,
not surprise at all.
We're gonna have to start wrapping it up here. We're getting near the end. I had a great time with you guys, man. I tell you, I always love hanging out with you and Aaron. It was wonderful meeting you and working.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope we get to do this again together. I had a blast. Everybody, if you enjoyed this and you want to have more conversation, get involved in more conversations like this, you can actually get involved in them by joining our fan social media outlets. You can find a lot of the nonprofit hosts at the Atheist Community Discord. I'm there all the time. There's quite a few of us that hang out there by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord. And you can also find us on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. And if you would like to support the show, we say thank you. Do it. You can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And most of all, and this is really, really important, we value your feedback. We really want you to tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments, or you can email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And it's your feedback that helps us make improvements to the show. And if it's a really good one and it's worthy of reading it, we'll read it on the air so you can get your name up down the show. So do it. Get a hold of us. Also, you should visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org for the latest of what's been happening. And feel free to contact the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. Boy, that's a lot of hyphens and .orgs, boy. Final thoughts from you guys, so we can, before we wrap it up here. Teo, got anything you'd like to finish the show with?
Yeah, I love being here with you guys. Aaron, you are such an awesome dude. I'm happy that I got to meet you. And Kelly, I always enjoy being with you. So thank you, nonprofits, for allowing me to be here. I love you all. I love the public. I love everything from here.
Aaron?
Yeah, same thing. It was a lot of fun talking with you guys about this. Teo, it's great to meet you. Kelly, it's great to meet you. I look forward to coming back on the show in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to working with you again too, Aaron. I had a blast with you here today. That's about it. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening, and I will see you next week.